Human males are always fertile? Alien student shocked by the truth HFY sci-fi story. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now let's jump into the story. Imagine being an alien student, fresh to studying human biology, only to discover a mind-blowing fact about human fertility that you never expected. Something that changes everything you thought you knew about life. Well, that's exactly what happened to AIA today. AIA was no ordinary student. A bright young alien from the planet Azura, a world where beings had distinct seasonal mating cycles. She had always believed that most species across the galaxy worked similarly, with mating seasons and fertility periods. But when she sat down in that xenobiology class on the first day of her intergalactic studies, she was about to hear a fact that would completely shatter everything she thought was true about humans. Now, the professor, a wise reptilian being from Centauri Prime, had been explaining the reproductive cycles of various species. And as the class progressed, AIA found herself enthralled by the conversation. She had always been curious about humans, fascinated by their rapid technological advancements and their unique culture. But what she learned in that lecture today was something beyond anything she could have imagined. She stared at the holographic display as the professor outlined the concept of human reproduction. No mating season, no cycle of fertility. Humans were always fertile. Her jaw nearly dropped. Was it possible? Could it really be true? Humans could mate at any time? As AIA absorbed the information, she felt a mix of disbelief and fascination. It was so foreign, so primal. She glanced at Jason, a human student sitting across from her. He seemed so calm, so casual about it. He had been listening attentively, but his easy confidence made AIA wonder. How could humans live like this? Constantly fertile, always ready to mate. She had so many questions running through her mind, but one thing was clear. She needed to understand more. After the lecture ended, she couldn't shake off the thought. As she walked out of the classroom, she found herself face to face with Jason, the human who had caught her eye earlier. He noticed her stare, and, with a mischievous grin, he raised an eyebrow. "So, you've been thinking about it too, huh?" he said, with a tone that was half joking, half serious. AIA tried to steady her breathing, her heart racing a bit more than usual. I didn't expect that," she replied, her voice a bit hesitant. "You humans, you're always fertile?" Jason chuckled, leaning against the doorframe. "Always," he said, his tone easy and confident. "It's just how we're built." AIA wasn't sure if she was more shocked by the information or by how casual Jason was about it. She had expected him to be embarrassed, to be uncomfortable with her questions, but instead, he seemed totally unfazed. That's amazing," she said, her mind racing with new thoughts. "I don't understand. How does that even work? Isn't it distracting?" Jason laughed again, a deep, hearty laugh that seemed to resonate through the hall. "I guess it could be, but for us, it's just normal. We're always ready. That's how we survive, how we thrive." The simplicity of his explanation left I even more confused, but also strangely intrigued. Was this a form of human survival, or was it something deeper? Something more primal? She wanted to know more. "Do you feel it all the time?" she asked, her voice soft, almost shy. "Do you always want to mate?" Jason looked at her for a moment, his expression softening. "It's not just about mating, AIA. It's about connection. Humans, we connect in ways that don't always make sense, but it's what makes us who we are." AIA felt a strange pull in her chest. She had never thought of mating in such a way. To her, it had always been about survival, about continuation of the species. But Jason was saying something different. There was something more to it, something deeper. As the conversation ended, AIA couldn't help but feel drawn to him, to his words. Her mind was spinning with questions. Was there something she was missing? Was human fertility just about biology, or was there something else? The more she thought about it, the more she realized she needed to understand this connection humans had. And she was going to need Jason to help her figure it out. After their conversation, AIA couldn't stop thinking about what Jason had said. The idea that humans were always fertile, always ready to mate, felt so alien to her. Back on Azura, mating was something regulated by seasons, by cycles. The notion of being perpetually capable of reproduction, like humans, seemed almost unnatural. But something about it intrigued her. The way Jason spoke about it, so casually, made her wonder if there was more to it than just biology. AIA found herself drawn to him, more than she ever expected. Was it just curiosity? Or was it something deeper? The next day, AIA couldn't wait to see Jason again. She had so many questions still swirling in her head. She needed answers. The class was about to start, but her mind wasn't focused on the lecture. It was focused on him. As she walked into the room, she noticed Jason sitting at his usual spot. He flashed a quick smile at her as she took her seat beside him. "Did you think about it some more?" he asked, his tone light, but with a hint of curiosity. "I couldn't stop thinking about it," AIA admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. She wasn't sure if she was more embarrassed or excited by the idea. "It just seems strange. Don't you ever get tired of it? Being always ready?" Jason chuckled. "Not at all. For us, it's just how we are. It's natural, like breathing. It's not something we think about all the time, but it's part of who we are." AIA looked at him, studying his expression. His calmness was both reassuring and unsettling. She had so many more questions. "But don't you ever want more than that? More than just biology?" she asked. Jason paused for a moment, his eyes narrowing slightly. "I think every human craves connection," he said slowly. "It's not just about mating. It's about finding someone, something, to connect with. It's about love, trust, and understanding. It's deeper than biology. But yeah, the biology is still there." AIA's mind was racing. What did Jason mean by that? She had never thought of reproduction as something more than just a way to ensure survival. But to Jason, it seemed to be tied to something emotional, something meaningful. She felt an unfamiliar warmth in her chest. It was as if her perspective on everything was shifting. "How do you know when it's the right time?" she asked, genuinely curious. "How do you know when you want to connect with someone?" Jason smiled. "It's not always about timing. It's about feeling. When you meet someone and everything just clicks, you can feel it. You don't have to explain it. It just happens." AIA felt her heart race as he spoke. There was a part of her that wanted to understand this feeling, to experience it for herself. But another part of her was hesitant. Was she ready for this? For the connection Jason was talking about? As the day passed, AIA couldn't shake the feeling that something was changing. It was more than just the information she had learned in class. It was more than just her curiosity about human biology. It was something inside her, pulling her toward Jason. After the lecture, they walked together toward the cafeteria. The campus was bustling with students from all over the galaxy, but AI barely noticed them. Her attention was entirely on Jason, and on the strange connection she felt growing between them. "You've been quiet," Jason remarked, looking over at her. "What's on your mind?" AIA hesitated for a moment. She wasn't sure how to say what she was feeling. I think I understand what you mean," she said slowly. "About connection. It's not just about biology. It's about something more." Jason smiled, a small, knowing smile. "Exactly. It's about more than just the physical. It's about finding someone who understands you, who you can share yourself with. That's what makes it special." AIA felt her heart flutter. Was she ready for this? To understand humans in a way she never had before? Was she ready to experience this connection? She wasn't sure, but she knew one thing. The journey of discovery had only just begun. As the days passed, AIA found herself growing more and more intrigued by Jason and the strange connection she felt towards him. It was not just the physical differences between their species. It was something deeper, something more emotional. The way he talked about human connection, about love and trust, it made her question everything she thought she knew. On her home planet of Azura, emotions were often regulated by cycles, by seasons, and relationships were carefully planned out, not driven by instincts or biological urges. But Jason was different. The way he spoke about love, about connecting with someone on a deeper level, made her heart race. Was it possible that humans could experience something so profound without it being about survival or necessity? Was this the kind of connection that Jason had been talking about? It was the evening after another long lecture on galactic biology when AI found herself walking alone toward the observation deck. She needed time to think. The stars above her were beautiful, stretching endlessly into the void, just like the questions in her mind. Why was she so drawn to Jason? Was it just curiosity about his species? Or was there something more? The warmth she felt every time they talked, the way he seemed so open, so understanding. Was it something unique to him, or was it a human trait? As she reached the edge of the observation deck, she leaned against the railing, her eyes scanning the stars, lost in thought. That's when she felt a presence beside her. She didn't need to turn around to know who it was. Jason stood there, his silhouette outlined by the distant light of a nearby planet. He was quiet for a moment before speaking. "I thought I might find you here," he said, his voice soft, as if he knew exactly what was on her mind. AIA turned to face him, her heart fluttering. "I've been thinking about what you said," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "About connection, about love. It's so different from what I know, from what we know on Azura. I don't understand how it can be so easy for humans. How do you know when it's real? When it's something deeper than just biology?" Jason smiled, his eyes soft and understanding. "It's not easy," he said, taking a step closer. "It takes time. It's about finding someone who you feel completely comfortable with, someone you can be yourself around, without pretending. It's not about biology at all, really. It's about sharing your life with someone, giving them a piece of your heart, and trusting them with it." AIA felt something shift inside her, a warmth spreading through her chest. She wasn't sure what it was, but it felt like a kind of awakening. For the first time, she was starting to understand what Jason meant. It wasn't about reproduction, or survival, or anything she had ever thought about before. It was about something more, a connection, a bond that went beyond biology. She looked into Jason's eyes, and for a moment, she didn't feel like an alien or an outsider. She felt seen. "Is that what you want, Jason?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. "Is that why you—" She stopped herself, unsure how to finish the question. "I think I've always wanted that," Jason replied, his voice quiet but firm. "I think humans, deep down, we all want someone to share our lives with, someone to connect with in a way that's real. And sometimes, we don't even know it until it happens. But when it does, you just know. It feels like everything clicks into place." AIA took a deep breath, her mind still racing with thoughts, with feelings she wasn't sure she was ready to confront. But in that moment, she realized something. She wanted to know more, to explore what Jason was talking about. She wanted to understand what it meant to connect, not just with a species, but with another being, deeply and truly. I think I want to understand," she said softly, her gaze meeting Jason's. "I want to know what it feels like. What it's like to connect." Jason smiled, his eyes lighting up with something that looked like hope. "We can take it slow," he said, his voice steady and reassuring. "No pressure. Just two people, figuring it out together. We can start with understanding each other, and see where it goes from there." AIA nodded slowly, a feeling of peace washing over her. For the first time, she wasn't afraid of what might happen next. She didn't know what the future held, but for the first time, she felt ready to explore it, ready to explore this connection that she had never experienced before. As they stood there together, under the vast, star-filled sky, AIA realized that maybe, just maybe, she wasn't so different from Jason after all. Maybe connection was something everyone could understand, regardless of where they came from. And maybe, for the first time, she was beginning to understand what it really meant to be human. As days passed, AIA felt herself becoming more and more drawn to Jason. The connection between them had grown stronger, even if she hadn't fully understood what it meant yet. The idea of connecting with someone on such a deep level, without the constraints of her people's rituals or the biological cycles she knew from Azura, was both exhilarating and intimidating. She had never experienced anything like it before, and she wasn't sure if she was ready to dive into it. But something about Jason made her feel safe, made her want to learn more. One evening, after a long day of classes and lectures, AIA found herself walking to the campus garden. It was a quiet, serene place, full of alien plants and trees from all over the galaxy, and she had grown fond of it. She needed some time alone, time to process her thoughts. As she entered the garden, she noticed Jason sitting on one of the stone benches, looking up at the sky. Without thinking, she walked over and sat next to him. "I didn't expect to see you here," Jason said with a smile, his eyes lighting up when he saw her. I thought I might find you here, she replied, her voice soft. They sat in silence for a while, both of them gazing at the stars above. AIA could feel the weight of the unspoken words between them. Jason, she began, her voice hesitant, I've been thinking a lot about what you said, about connection and everything. I don't know if I fully understand it yet, but I think I want to. Jason turned to face her, his expression serious now, but still gentle. I'm glad to hear that, AIA. It's not something that happens overnight, you know, but I think we can take it one step at a time. There's no rush. AIA nodded, feeling a sense of relief wash over her. She had been worried about moving too fast, about pushing herself into something she wasn't ready for, but hearing Jason speak like that made her feel like she didn't have to rush. She could take her time, figure it out as they went along. I think I'm ready to learn, she said, her voice more confident now. Not just about humans, but about connection. I want to understand what it means, what it feels like. Jason smiled warmly at her. I'm here for that, AIA. We'll take it slow, and we'll figure it out together. The words hung in the air between them, and for the first time in a long while, AIA felt a sense of peace. Maybe it wasn't so much about understanding everything right away, but about being open to the experience, about letting herself be vulnerable and trusting someone else with her heart. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of learning and discovery for AIA. She spent more time with Jason, and the connection between them deepened. They talked for hours about their cultures, their differences, and their similarities. She learned about the way humans formed relationships, how they valued trust, loyalty, and companionship. And she realized that while their biology was different, their need for connection was not so different from hers. One evening, as they sat together in the campus library, AIA looked over at Jason and smiled. I think I understand now, she said quietly. It's not just about mating or biology. It's about sharing your life with someone, being there for them, even when it's hard. It's about trust and love in its simplest form. Jason looked at her with soft eyes. Exactly, AIA. It's about finding someone who makes you feel like you can be your true self. It's about building something real together. AIA felt her heart swell with warmth at his words. She had never imagined that this kind of connection could be so profound, so meaningful. It was more than just a simple biological need. It was a bond that transcended species, that transcended everything she had known. It was the kind of connection that made her feel truly alive. As she sat next to Jason, the weight of the universe seemed to lift from her shoulders. She no longer felt like an alien, like an outsider. She felt like she belonged. And for the first time in her life, she felt ready to embrace what was coming next, whatever it might be. She didn't know what the future held, but with Jason by her side, she knew she was ready to face it, to explore this new connection and see where it would take them. AIA took a deep breath and looked at Jason, her heart full. I'm ready, she said softly. Let's see where this goes. Jason smiled, his eyes filled with warmth and understanding. Together, he said, and in that moment, AIA knew that this was only the beginning. As AIA and Jason continued to spend time together, their bond grew stronger, a connection that neither of them had expected, but both had come to embrace. AIA felt as though she was beginning to truly understand the nature of human connection, and with each passing day, she found herself learning more about herself and Jason. It wasn't just about the physical attraction between them, but the emotional closeness, the trust they were building. They spent their afternoons exploring the campus together, sometimes talking, sometimes walking in comfortable silence, simply enjoying each other's company. One afternoon, as they sat under a tree near the campus lake, AIA looked at Jason, her expression thoughtful. You know, I've never had a friendship like this before, she said, her voice quiet but sincere. Jason glanced at her, his face softening. I feel the same way, he admitted. I've never really had someone I could just be myself with. It's not always about the chemistry or the physical stuff. Sometimes it's just about being comfortable with another person, knowing they've got your back, no matter what. AIA smiled, the words resonating deeply within her. It's strange, she said. Back on Azura, we were always taught that relationships had to follow certain rules, certain rituals. But with you, it feels like there's no pressure. It just happens. Jason nodded, understanding what she meant. That's the thing about connection, he said. It doesn't follow rules. It's messy, unpredictable, but it's also the most real thing there is. With you, I feel like I don't need to be anything other than who I am. AIA felt a warmth spread through her chest at his words. She had never expected to find this kind of understanding with anyone, let alone a human. I think I'm starting to understand what it means to be human, she said softly. It's not just about biology or instincts. It's about the emotions we share, the experiences that shape us, and the connections we build. Jason looked at her, his gaze soft and genuine. I'm glad you're seeing that, he said, his voice low. Because that's what makes us who we are. It's the connections we make with others, the bonds we create, that define us. As they sat there, AIA felt a sense of peace settle over her. She realized that this connection with Jason was something she had never experienced before, and yet it felt so right, so natural. It was as if everything she had ever known about relationships had been turned upside down, and now, for the first time, she was experiencing something truly meaningful. Over the next few weeks, they continued to grow closer, exploring their connection in a way that was both deep and easy. They would often study together, sharing ideas and thoughts about the classes they were taking. AIA was fascinated by the way Jason saw the world. He had a unique perspective, one that blended both logic and emotion, and she found herself learning from him every day. One evening, as they walked back to their dorms after a late-night study session, AIA stopped and turned to Jason, a smile tugging at the corners of her lips. I never imagined it would be like this, she said, her voice filled with awe. I thought I would always be an outsider. But with you, I don't feel like that anymore. Jason stopped too, turning to face her. You're not an outsider, AIA, he said, his voice steady and reassuring. You're just like me. We might come from different places, but we're both human in our own way. We both need connection, and that's what makes us the same. AIA felt her heart swell at his words. She had never thought of herself as human in the way Jason meant, but now, in this moment, it felt true. She had come to realize that the connection they shared wasn't just about their differences. It was about their shared humanity, the need for understanding and trust that transcended everything else. She took a deep breath, her heart racing with a mix of excitement and uncertainty. What happens now? She asked, her voice quiet but hopeful. Jason smiled, his eyes filled with warmth and understanding. Now, we keep going, he said simply. We take this one day at a time, and we see where it takes us. Together. AIA nodded, a sense of peace washing over her. For the first time, she felt ready to take the next step, ready to explore this connection with Jason and see where it would lead. She didn't know what the future held, but with him by her side, she knew she was ready to face it. And as they walked side by side, under the light of the stars, AIA realized that this journey, this connection, was only just beginning. As AIA and Jason continued to grow closer, their relationship deepened in ways neither of them had expected. They had been through so much together, learning from each other, growing in understanding, and developing a bond that felt both natural and unshakable. AIA had never imagined that her experience with humans would be this profound. She had thought that connecting with someone from another species would be difficult, full of misunderstandings and cultural barriers, but Jason had made it feel easy. It wasn't just about the way they spoke to each other. It was the way they understood each other without having to say much at all. The connection between them had become a part of who they were. One evening, after a particularly intense lecture on the differences in human and alien emotions, AIA found herself walking back to the dorm with Jason. As they strolled side by side, she looked up at the stars, feeling a sense of peace settle over her. It had been a long day, but being with him made everything feel right. I think I'm starting to understand, AIA said, breaking the silence. Jason glanced at her, a curious smile tugging at his lips. Understand what? He asked. About human emotions, she replied. Back on Azura, we were always taught that emotions were to be controlled, that they were a weakness. But you, she paused, gathering her thoughts. You make me feel like it's okay to feel, to be vulnerable. It's like emotions are a part of who you are, not something to hide. Jason smiled softly, his eyes reflecting the stars above them. That's exactly it, AIA. Emotions are what make us human. They can be messy and overwhelming at times, but they're also beautiful and real. The way we connect with each other, the way we love, trust, and care for others. It's all part of being who we are. I'm glad you're starting to see that. AIA felt a warmth spread through her chest at his words. For the first time in her life, she felt like she truly understood the depth of human emotion. It wasn't just about survival or logic. It was about connection, about sharing a part of yourself with someone else. The idea was so different from everything she had learned growing up on Azura, but it felt right. I never realized how important it was, she said softly, her voice filled with awe. Back home, emotions were something to be controlled, kept in check. But now I see. It's about living fully, embracing what you feel. That's what makes a connection real. Jason nodded, his expression serious yet filled with understanding. Exactly. And it's not just about feeling the good emotions, either. It's about sharing the tough moments, the vulnerable ones. When you can trust someone enough to show them your deepest fears and desires, that's when you know it's real. AIA looked at him, her heart beating faster. She had never felt this kind of closeness with anyone before, not even with her own people. There was something about Jason, the way he made her feel seen and understood, that made everything seem more meaningful. As they continued walking, AIA realized that she was ready to take the next step with him. It wasn't just about learning how humans connected. It was about her connection to Jason. She could no longer deny that she cared for him deeply, in ways that went beyond curiosity or fascination. There was a part of her that wanted to know everything about him, to be with him in ways that felt right, natural. Jason, she began, her voice a little uncertain but filled with determination, I think I'm ready. Ready to understand more about us, about what we can be together. I want to explore us. Jason stopped walking and turned to face her, his eyes searching hers. Are you sure, AIA? He asked gently, his voice low. It's okay if you need more time. I'll be here. AIA nodded, her heart steadying with each word. I'm sure. I've never been more sure of anything. Jason smiled, a smile that made her feel as though everything was falling into place. Then let's take it one step at a time, AIA. No pressure. Just us, figuring it out together. She felt a surge of happiness at his words, the weight of uncertainty lifting from her shoulders. As they stood there, looking at each other under the vast expanse of stars, AIA felt a sense of peace she had never known. For the first time, she felt truly at home, not just in the world, but in herself. With Jason, she wasn't just an alien from a distant planet. She was someone capable of deep connection, of real love, just like him. The future was uncertain, but with him by her side, AIA knew that they could face whatever came next. And in that moment, she realized that this was only the beginning. As AIA and Jason continued their journey together, they began to explore their connection in ways that felt natural and true. The weeks passed, and with each moment spent together, their bond grew deeper. AIA found herself discovering more about the emotions that she had been taught to suppress back home on Azura. What once seemed like a weakness to her now felt like a strength, a source of connection between her and Jason that transcended the boundaries of their species. One evening, as they sat together in a quiet corner of the campus garden, the air cool and still around them, AIA turned to Jason with a thoughtful expression. I think I finally get it, she said softly, her voice filled with understanding. The way you feel, the way you connect with someone, it's not just about biology. It's about being open, being real with each other. Jason smiled, his eyes warm as he listened to her. Exactly, AIA, he said, his voice low and steady. It's about being able to be yourself, without fear of judgment. When you can share your true self with someone, and they accept you for who you are, that's when you know it's real. AIA felt a deep sense of peace wash over her as she listened to his words. She had never felt more understood, more seen, than she did in this moment. She had spent so much of her life trying to fit into the expectations of her people, trying to conform to their rigid ways. But with Jason, there were no expectations, no rules to follow. There was just the two of them, exploring this connection, learning together, and growing closer with each passing day. I never knew it could be like this, she said, her voice filled with awe. I thought that emotions were something to hide, to control, but now I see that they're what make us real, make us human. It's not about being perfect, it's about being honest, being vulnerable with each other. Jason nodded, his gaze thoughtful. Exactly. That's what makes love so powerful, so real. It's not about being flawless. It's about accepting each other's flaws and still choosing to be there for each other. It's about trust, and that's what I've learned from you, AIA. AIA felt her heart swell at his words. She had always thought that she had to hide her true self, that showing vulnerability would make her weak. But with Jason, she realized that vulnerability was a strength, something that brought them closer. It wasn't just about their differences as alien and human. It was about their shared experiences, their shared emotions. As the days went on, AIA and Jason continued to navigate this new chapter of their lives together. They had their challenges, of course. There were moments when their different backgrounds made things difficult, times when they didn't fully understand each other. But each time, they learned, they grew, and they became stronger. One evening, as they sat on a bench near the edge of the campus, watching the sunset together, AIA turned to Jason, her eyes searching his face. "Do you think this is it? Do you think this is what we've been looking for?" she asked, her voice soft but filled with hope. Jason looked at her, his expression serious but full of warmth. "I think this is just the beginning, AIA," he said. "We've found something special, something real, and I don't think either of us wants to let it go. But we still have a long way to go, still so much to learn about each other and about ourselves." AIA nodded, a smile tugging at the corners of her lips. She felt ready, more than ready, to face whatever came next. She had never imagined that a connection like this was possible, but now, she couldn't imagine life without it. With Jason by her side, she knew she could face anything that came their way. And for the first time in her life, she felt truly at peace, knowing that they were building something real, something lasting. "Together," she said softly, her voice full of certainty. Jason smiled at her, the warmth in his eyes reflecting the golden light of the setting sun. "Together," he echoed, his voice filled with promise. As they sat there, side by side, watching the stars begin to twinkle in the sky above them, AIA realized that this journey they were on, this connection they had found, was only just beginning. And for the first time, she felt ready to embrace whatever the future held, knowing that with Jason by her side, they could conquer anything. Together, as AIA and Jason continued to navigate their unique connection, something began to shift between them. The more time they spent together, the more they started to understand not only each other, but also themselves. AIA had never imagined that she would come to embrace the emotions and connections that humans valued so deeply. She had grown up on Azura, where emotional control was paramount, but now, with Jason, it felt like there were no barriers, no walls between them. They could simply be who they were. One evening, after a quiet dinner in the campus cafeteria, AI found herself deep in thought, reflecting on everything that had changed since she met Jason. She had come to realize that she had been holding herself back, trying to fit into a mold that was never meant for her. The fear of vulnerability, the fear of letting someone in, these were things that had held her captive for so long. But now, with Jason, she was beginning to let go. As they walked together toward their usual spot in the garden, I turned to Jason, her eyes filled with a mix of curiosity and something deeper. "Jason," she began, her voice gentle but firm, "do you ever feel like you've been waiting for something, without even knowing what it was?" Jason glanced at her, his expression thoughtful. "I think I know what you mean," he said after a moment, his voice soft. "It's like there's this part of you that's been missing, something you didn't even know you needed until you found it. And then, when you do, everything starts to make sense." AIA nodded slowly, her heart racing. Jason was right. There was a part of her that had always felt incomplete, always searching for something she couldn't quite identify. And now, she realized that Jason was the missing piece. "That's exactly how I feel," she said softly. "I never knew what it was, but now, I think I understand. It's not just about learning to connect with humans. It's about learning to connect with myself, with my own feelings." Jason smiled warmly, his eyes filled with understanding. "I'm glad you're starting to see that, AIA. It's not always easy to accept that part of yourself, but it's the first step toward truly understanding who you are. And once you do that, everything else starts to fall into place." As they reached their spot in the garden, they sat together in comfortable silence, the sounds of the night filling the air. The stars above them seemed to shimmer with possibilities, and AI it felt a sense of peace wash over her. This was the kind of connection she had always wanted, but never knew how to find. It wasn't just about being with someone. It was about being truly seen, truly understood, for who you really were. Jason, AIA said after a long pause, her voice soft but steady. I've never been this open with anyone before. I've never let myself be this vulnerable. But with you, I feel like I can be myself, without fear. Jason turned to her, his gaze intense but gentle. I feel the same way, AIA, he replied. With you, I can be honest, without pretending, without holding anything back. You've shown me a side of myself I didn't even know existed. The weight of their words hung in the air, filling the space between them with an unspoken understanding. There was no need for elaborate declarations, no need for promises they couldn't yet make. They both knew that what they had was real, and that was enough. AIA looked at Jason, her heart swelling with a mix of emotions, gratitude, love, and a deep sense of connection. She realized that, for the first time, she was no longer afraid of what the future held. Whatever happened next, she knew she was ready to face it. I don't know what's ahead for us, AIA said, her voice steady. But I know that whatever it is, we'll face it together. Jason smiled, a reassuring and genuine smile that made her feel like everything would be okay. Together, he echoed, his voice full of promise. They sat there for a long time, watching the stars in silence, both of them lost in the beauty of the moment. AIA had never felt more sure of herself, more sure of the connection they shared. It wasn't just about two beings from different worlds coming together. It was about the way they had found something real, something that transcended species and cultures. In that moment, AIA realized that this journey, this connection, was the beginning of something she would treasure for the rest of her life. And with Jason by her side, she knew that they could face anything that came their way. As AIA and Jason continued to spend time together, their connection only deepened. The trust they had built between them was undeniable, and the bond they shared grew stronger with each passing day. They had gone from two beings from different worlds, uncertain and hesitant, to two people who knew each other's hearts in a way that felt timeless. It wasn't about the biological differences that separated them, but the emotional understanding that united them. It had taken time, but they were no longer just two strangers crossing paths. They were something more. As the semester drew to a close, AIA found herself reflecting on everything that had happened. She had come to this planet seeking knowledge, but what she had found was something much more valuable: connection, love, and a deeper understanding of herself. Jason had opened her eyes to a side of herself she had never known, a side that embraced vulnerability, honesty, and trust. She had never imagined that emotions could be so freeing, so powerful. And now, standing on the balcony of her dorm room, looking out over the campus as the sun set behind the distant mountains, she realized just how much her life had changed. She had come so far from the person she had been when she first arrived. The rigid, controlled existence she had known on Azura now seemed distant, a world away. Here, with Jason, she had learned that emotions were not weaknesses to be feared. They were strengths that could forge the deepest connections between people. Just as she was lost in her thoughts, she felt a presence behind her. Turning around, she saw Jason, his face soft with a smile that made her heart race. "You're lost in thought again," he said, his voice teasing but kind. AIA smiled back at him, feeling the warmth spread through her chest. "I was just thinking about how far we've come," she said softly. "When I first got here, I didn't know what to expect. But now, with you, everything feels different. In a good way." Jason walked over to her, his eyes meeting hers with such tenderness that it made her heart swell. "I feel the same way," he said quietly, his voice filled with sincerity. "When we first met, I had no idea what was going to happen, but I'm glad it did. You've changed me, AIA. You've shown me a side of life I didn't know existed, and I'm grateful for it." AIA felt a tear slip down her cheek, the overwhelming emotions too much to contain. She had never thought she would be in a place like this, where she could be so open, so raw. But with Jason, she felt safe, like she could be herself without fear. He gently wiped the tear away, his touch so soft, so loving. "Hey, no need to cry," he said softly. "We've come a long way, and we're only getting started." AIA nodded, her heart full of warmth. I know, she whispered. I'm just so happy, Jason. I never knew it could be like this. I never knew that two people from different worlds could find something so real, so meaningful. Jason pulled her into his arms, holding her close as they stood together, watching the sky change colors as the day turned to night. Anything is possible when you're with the right person, he said, his voice low and filled with promise. AIA smiled, resting her head on his chest. I think we're both the right person for each other, she said softly. As they stood there, wrapped in each other's arms, AIA knew that their journey wasn't over. It was just beginning. There was so much more for them to discover, so much more for them to experience together. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear, they would face it together. AIA had never felt more certain about anything in her life. She had found her place, not just on Earth, but in herself. And with Jason by her side, she knew that anything was possible. Their connection was more than just a fleeting moment. It was a promise of something lasting, something beautiful, something that would continue to grow. AIA took a deep breath, her heart filled with hope and love. She was ready for whatever came next, knowing that with Jason by her side, she could face anything. Together, they had found something rare and precious, something that no one could take away. And that was the most beautiful thing of all.